Okay guys, so this is a quick video just to explain the next task. This task is due the 13th of May, which is week 3, Wednesday. Alright, so that day there. Now, you're only going to have 2 weeks to do this task. So that's why it's really important that you've previously looked at how to use Photoshop and that we learn InDesign really quickly. This task is setting you up for the next big 30% task though. Okay, task is creating a multi-column newsletter. We're moving into a desktop publishing away from our business publishing types of IPP. Okay, so your task. The scenario is that the 2019/2020 summer season was hot, dry, and windy, bringing with it countless terrible bushfires. These bushfires devastated some of South Australia's key tourism locations, with people's lives, properties, businesses, national parks, and wildlife all being impacted by the fires in the Adelaide Hills and Kangaroo Island. Important to note that we are looking at these 2 destinations in South Australia. Okay, so to support these communities, the South Australian Tourism Commission created a number of short videos and the hashtag Book Them Out. Hopefully you guys have seen that. These videos are on Daymap under the assessment task, so have a look at those as well to give you some more information. To accompany these videos, the South Australian Tourism Commission is asking you to also make a small newsletter that specifically advertises the destinations and what people can do and what they can see at the tourist destination of your choice that has been affected by the bushfires. So it's probably going to be in one of these 2 locations. So your actual task is to design and produce a magazine style newsletter. This is going to be 4 pages long. And it must promote one of the tourism destinations affected by the bushfires. A list of these can be found at the back of the task sheet. The target audience for this newsletter is anyone in South Australia looking to go away, so anyone, so young or old, but depending on what your focus for your design is, your target audience should be more specific. So for example, if you are looking at a tourism destination that offers skydiving, you're probably going to be aiming your design at younger people or maybe more adventurous people. As well as this 4-page newsletter, you are also going to need to do some documentation, meaning that you're going to have to record what your thoughts are and behind your design, evaluating your design, as well as researching other people's magazine/newsletter layouts, so that then you can be inspired by their products. Okay, so that is the task. Just so long as you know what the task is, then you can skip past that. This page is going to be, I guess, your Bible while you are creating this task over the next 2 weeks. So you are going to need to create a 4-page A4 layout with a front cover, 2-page center spread, and then a final back cover. So essentially think of it as a magazine with a front cover and a back cover, and then it only has 2 pages in the inside. You must only choose 1 tourism location, and then within that only tell me about 1 main attraction. Keep it concise. Don't tell me about all of Kangaroo Island, for example. What you can do though is say the first 100 words, a small paragraph, you can talk about the entire tourist destination, so all of Kangaroo Island, and just say, explain what it is, explain where it is, maybe give a map, so that then you're, I guess, giving a overview of the whole place, and then you're honing in on just one specific spot, say Seal Bay on Kangaroo Island, and telling us more about that one location that people can go to. Okay, you can source your text from online, so that means you can copy and paste from a website. you must use at least 500 words for the entire practical assignment. So that means that it must be like text heavy, okay? When you copy and paste information from the internet, which, guys, I strongly suggest you do, don't type out your own words. You need to reference it in your documentation. I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. Same with imagery. You can use images from the internet, or if you have your own, I don't suggest you go out and take your own now knowing what the assignment is. But if you have been to somewhere in the Adelaide Hills or Kangaroo Island and you want to do that destination, you can use your own photos. But they must be manipulated in some way. So you're probably going to use Photoshop to do so. You must also acknowledge, reference the images and where you found them. You must put these logos on your newsletter, and you must also include 2 to 4 different, like, big or small advertisements, advertising, I guess, brands or products that would relate to that tourist destination. For example, if you're really talking about a hiking track, then you might put like a hiking brand like Kathmandu advertising their winter jackets, for example. Okay, so 2 to 4 small kind of promotional advertisements like you would see in a magazine. Okay, so that's the actual product. What you're going to do this in, obviously you're going to manipulate images in Photoshop, hence why you needed to know how to use Photoshop. But the overall magazine is going to be created in InDesign. So you're going to lay it out in InDesign. I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later as well in another video. Your documentation, it is up to you. You have 2 choices. You can either lay out your documentation in Word. You will not get marked down if you do this. However, you do have to lay it out well. We are in graphic design, we're in IPP. Or you can lay it out in InDesign. Remembering that if you were in my class last year, you got better at using InDesign because I forced you to do all your documentation in it. So you are going to learn more if you choose to do your documentation in InDesign. Your next big task is all done in InDesign. Just a heads up. Okay. So what you're going to need to do is only some of the steps in the design process. You're going to do investigation, meaning that you need to give me an outline of what your task is. So what you will do is this is a lot of words, so you're going to summarize this nice and short and succinctly what your scenario is and what your task is. And then you're also going to tell me what your tourist destination is and your specific target audience. So remembering that you are thinking a little bit smaller than just anyone and everyone that wants to go on a holiday. You're thinking about the adventurous types because you're doing skydiving. The other thing that you need to do is look at how different magazines and newsletters lay out all aspects of their text. So you're probably going to find examples of a front cover of a magazine, the middle page spread, and you're going to find a back cover example. What you're going to do then is I only want you to analyze one 2-page spread. You don't need to analyze the front cover. You don't need to analyze the back cover. This is just a quick, I guess, almost example of what you're going to be doing in the next assessment task, which you're going to do a lot of this, but we're going to practice it in this task to see how good you are and where we can improve. All right. So only one 2-page spread. You're going to analyze it, talking about the layout principles. They're your CRAP principles, okay? I'm going to give you more information on that in a little bit. Devising, don't tell me any of it. Don't tell me about your decision making. I don't care. You're going to tell me a little bit about that in the evaluating. Producing, just give me a JPEG of your final outcome so that then it's flattened, all right? And evaluating. Evaluating is the big one for here. You're going to use 400 words roughly to answer these questions for me, making sure that you're talking about the principles of design, the layout principles, I should say, or the CRAP principles, and answering, all of those questions. You have 2 weeks. This is what you're going to submit to me as the final result. These are some of the tourist destinations that you may choose. I've given you a website as an example of, I guess, websites that have a sufficient amount of text that you could copy and paste into your newsletter. Or alternatively, you can come up with your own, just so long as it is either Adelaide Hills or Kangaroo Island. that was affected by the bushfires. Whether the fire didn't go anywhere near them, but their tourism was affected, so they lost out on money. That was a big problem for Kangaroo Island. Or whether, say, it was a winery in the Adelaide Hills that was directly impacted by the bushfires, lost part of its produce, and they're having to start again, so you're wanting to support that business. All right. Now, hopefully that makes sense. Again, I'll just reiterate. Practical task being done in Photoshop and InDesign. Documentation either in Word or in InDesign is your choice, but I would recommend InDesign so that then you learn. Okay, what I want you to do is get started on this part here. Once you feel like you are ready to start devising and producing, remember you don't have to document any of your devising, then pop over to my InDesign video, which will tell you a little bit more. Oh, really quickly, investigating on Daymap, there is going to be a PowerPoint. It's going to look better than this, but of examples of double page spreads that you guys can choose from. So have a look at that one. The other thing that you need to know about on Daymap is if you actually go to the assessment task, so Multicolum Newsletter, I've popped a bunch of resources in here, including your task sheet, including the YouTube videos of Book Them Out, and including PNG and JPEG files of the logos that you need to put on the newsletter. All right, so please make sure that you have a look at those. All right, I think I've talked for